Hey, everybody. Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. I'm John Martin.
And I'm Dean Reverman.
Dean, we're not youngsters anymore, are we?
No. Why you got to remind me of that?
Well, every now and then it's important to just remember where you are in the life cycle.
Yes. Maturing nicely, I like to
I
think of
literally
it, but
went to
yes.
my doctor a few weeks ago and just told him about various random health issues I've had over the last
Your
few
list
months.
is getting longer.
Yeah, and he basically just said to me, well, you're 45. You're getting old. I'm like, thanks, Doc.
Thanks.
I
That's
appreciate
exactly
that.
what I wanted to hear.
He's been my doctor for like 20 plus years, so he's allowed to do that. I guess, at
Okay,
this
yeah.
point.
He's allowed to rib you a little bit.
But let's be honest, we're probably a little bit closer to retirement than we were to our childhood.
Oh,
and
100%.
School age
yes,
days.
Yes.
And we're tech savvy guys too.
We are, yes.
So if at some point in the future we find ourselves in some kind of senior living facility, assisted care,
highly
long-term
likely.
care,
Yeah, right.
we're going to expect some quality technology to be there too, aren't we?
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't want to, like a tablet and writing materials and so I want technology to follow me wherever I go.
You mean like an actual paper tablet?
paper
right?
tablet?
Yeah, okay.
Well, yeah.
Well, that demand is actually here already.
Yes.
Because, we got an older
I would
generation
imagine so,
that has become accustomed to technology over the last, 20 years or so.
Yep.
That expectation's there, and not always, the facilities themselves aren't always up to date.
Yeah, good point.
And that stuff can be very beneficial to the health and well-being of seniors. We discovered a lot about that during COVID. We'll talk more about that in a moment.
right.
Particularly remote engagement, which is our kind of our core topic today.
Yes.
So we have Kian Saneii on with us from Independa.
Yes.
He's going to help us dive a little bit into remote engagement for senior health. We're going to talk a little bit about his experience and why he founded his company and how relevant this became during the pandemic. We're going to talk about some of the technology that's available for senior living and how it meets their healthcare needs.
Good.
We'll get into the pitch. How do you go out to senior
how do you
and
make some
long-term
money
care?
on
Yeah,
this?
how do you
Yes,
make money
okay.
off of this?
All right.
What should you be asking
What's
about?
the
What should
message?
you be saying?
Yep.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And then we'll get a little overview of Independa's platform as well.
Nice.
So,
Nice.
all that plus our usual value to the VAR and what's tech connecting with us. It's time to plug in and get connected.
Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. It's time to get connected.
All right, as I mentioned, our guest today is Kian Saneii from Independa. He is the founder and CEO of the company. So if anyone's going to know anything about this world, it's going to be him.
Yes. We got a good one here
Exactly.
today. Yes.
Kian, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being on. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I know we're going to get into more about the, what led you to Independa, but just give us a little background on you.
First off, it's great to be with you, John and Dean. It's going to be a fun chat session together in your podcast. So my background is I'm a tech guy through and through, computer science, undergrad and grad, went to Bell Labs, and I've been involved in software my whole life. And Independa was founded once I left the last company I was with, which was called WebSense. And it's now 13 years ago. I can't believe it. You talked about getting older over time. The first time LinkedIn congratulated me on my 10th anniversary of Independa, I was like, no, it can't be 10 years. Now I just saw 13 years and it's normal. So the reason the company was founded was there really were no appropriate, adequate technology solutions, platforms, aids, you name it, that helped someone age wherever they wanted to be, longer, safer, more comfortably. And we can share more details later, but that's my background in a nutshell: tech and software. And I saw my parents take care of my mom's parents over time before I founded Independa. I didn't think about Independa at the time, but when the time came to look at what to do next, I realized there's such a huge opportunity in such an underserved market that it was a natural fit.
Yeah, definitely. Well, then let's get a little further into that, because you mentioned in your bio on the Independa website that your own experiences with elder care is what really led you to found them. So tell us a bit more about that and how relevant the whole remote engagement thing has become, especially after these last couple of years in the pandemic.
Sure. So when you think about what's going on today, and this was the case 13 years ago also, today we have over 50 million people, when you think about it, that are providing informal care to someone who is 50 years or older and looking to stay independent. Not 65 and older, not 85, but 50 years. And the implication there is that person is living alone. That's really important because if you're living with someone else, you may need care, but typically the person who is higher functioning is essentially the caregiver of the other person. So as long as you have one person who can take care of the other, even if both might be, maybe in need of some support, you have someone that you can count on to take care of someone else locally, right there with them. But a lot of times people get widowed. We're all living longer. People might get divorced, and your social circle starts collapsing. And somebody might take the car keys away as well. And now suddenly you're living alone. You can't go to church as much, or if at all. People around you may not be around as much because you're getting older in your years. And suddenly somebody who's maybe your daughter or your son is trying to take care of you, not just from down the street potentially, but maybe a few states away, maybe thousands of miles away. And so that's really the problem that was an epidemic back then. And it's that much worse now, particularly because of COVID, but in general, it was an epidemic before COVID.
I would agree. I mean, I was reading an article actually that showed the amount of alone time and per, age range, if you will. And it was one of those charts that kind of moves and animates because, I like those kind of charts. But it was really, truly fascinating to watch that, after 50, the alone time just increases and it increases and everything that you just said, Kian. I mean, in the sense that, maybe your friend bubble starts collapsing and your work bubbles start collapsing a little bit and you just don't have that many people that you're interacting with, and the alone time just goes up and up and up, and that creates mental issues. It's creating all kinds of things that I think a lot of us have learned during the COVID pandemic. But to your point, it was an issue before, but man, is it an issue now? Even more so.
Yeah.
So yeah,
definitely. I find it interesting. I was on a webinar yesterday where somebody mentioned that apparently the latest statistic is we've reached this tipping point where we have more people in the world over the age of 65 than under the age of 5.
Whoa, really?
So, and we knew we were kind of heading that direction just
Yeah.
because birth rates have gone down a little bit over the last decade or so. But but man, that's a shocking figure when you
That
stop and
is.
think about it and realize that how many people then are out there that are potentially of an age where they do potentially need some care, or they're maybe struggling to live independently. I know from experience with my mom, I'm always on this cusp of what do we do next kind of thing, because she's still relatively functional on her own, but there's enough things that concern me that I'm I'm in that gray area right now to figure stuff out.
Yeah.
And it's very hard, and she's lucky that she's got me fairly close by at least, but I'm also an only child, and so there's a lot of stuff there to juggle, and a lot of folks that are trying to sort this out. And let's be honest, senior care and long-term care and the facilities that are out there are a little bit understaffed. They might be under-equipped, and they're frankly very expensive. So, there's got to be some kind of breaking point. And I'm kind of hoping that some of the technology we're going to talk about is this kind of stuff that can help, get people over the edge or help get people where they're supposed to be. So let's get into some of that then, Kian. How does technology like, let's say, remote monitoring, virtual care, patient engagement tools, how does it help with these issues like readmissions, chronic conditions that people are trying to manage as they get older, mental health, or simply getting patients, especially the elderly, to actually keep up with their healthcare needs?
Yeah, I'm writing the individual ones that you just mentioned just so I cover them, because each one itself is a huge area. So let me just, sort of do some free flow of ideas. When you think about our cost of healthcare in our country right now, it's approaching 20% of our GDP. And so that's unsustainable to begin with, just in terms of pure medical costs. That's not the informal care, by the way. That's not you taking care of your mom. That's not the informal caregivers running around doing things on their own with their own time. So, and by the way, that's also not private pay care. That's not home care. That's not independent living. That's not assisted living. That's actual medical costs. So when you have 80% of medical costs, we're over 50% greater than the next industrial nation providing care. So it's already huge. When you think about that 20%, you look at almost 80% of that is chronic condition management. So you asked about chronic care. So if you look at that and say, how do we reduce our healthcare costs? One simple way is if we can just bend that curve a little bit, chronic condition, then you reduce overall healthcare. Now, when you think about who has chronic conditions, typically it's older adults. So then you think about what else is going on with older adults that are very damaging, both psychologically and medically, cost-wise, all that. Isolation. And we touched on it when we started the program. So isolation leading to loneliness, which leads to literally clinical depression. So we have things which are shameful, but things like suicide rates and alcoholism and all sorts of other anguish in the golden generation that we have. And it's sort of the underbelly of care that we don't talk about. And why is that happening is because I was just presenting at a conference. I asked everyone in the big, huge room, how many people have not had human contact for a week or more ever in their life? And not a single hand went up because we're just not used to that. We've always had human contact. But you get to a point where, like we talked about earlier, your social circle might have collapsed. Your friends may not be able to visit. You may not have that many friends. You might have had a small family to begin with. Maybe you don't even have children. Maybe you never had children. Maybe you had one child and maybe they passed, God forbid. So at the end of the day, you might be alone. And if you're alone and no one's calling you and you have no one to call, you could go days and weeks on end without human contact. And so then you think about, what does that do? That's clinically proven to lead to depression, but that's also clinically proven to lead to self-neglect, to medication neglect, to recidivism into the system. That, of course, leads to additional costs and anguish and all that. So you have people that literally call ER and have some issue only for the ambulance to come in and take them so they can have contact with someone in the ER staff. That's how bad some situations are. So if we can have some sort of a benefit to bring engagement to that person where they may not have someone with them right there. And by the way, what are they doing all day if they're lonely and isolated?
Probably watching TV.
Yeah.
That's what my mom does.
Watching TV. And the reason is more than just, a good guess. It's physically and emotionally, we need to hear the human voice. Even if we're not talking to someone, to be able to hear the human voice, see the human person do something in front of us and just be engaged that way, even though it's, on a TV screen, it's better than silence. It's better than just music. So that engagement is that valuable. So if you're watching TV all day long, just to have some sort of social, at least facsimile, what we've done with Independa is we've said, okay, let's take that device and let's turn it from a commodity appliance into a bidirectional engagement window to the world. Let's have people, whether they're informal caregivers, if you're lucky enough to have friends and family, or staff who may be looking to take care of you, but may not be able to be with you all day long, to be able to engage with you. And, the last point there is a big difference in the size of the screen. And there's also a big difference in the technology that you can use, that you can be comfortable, versus maybe a smaller, phone that you may not even be able to see, or a computer with passwords and virus scans and software updates, or a tablet that might get dropped. Screen may be still small. If you want to do exercises, how can you do that with a tab? So all these other reasons, led us and Independa to get onto the TV screen.
Yeah, and that's one of those. This is a good application of the technology, right? I mean, we've talked about telehealth, and we'll get into that, and maybe some of the other things that the technology is enabling. But when you think about the human contact, and that's a really good point, Kian, and I believe that's why you've made a relationship with one of our suppliers, LG, in the product that you went to market there, kind of enabling that, right? I mean, the older population, I'm telling you, my mom doesn't react well to this small device, this mobile iPhone. When we FaceTime her and stuff like that, it kind of works, and stuff like that. But yeah, she would rather be in front of the TV and with a larger camera and just a better overall experience. But it is fascinating how that, that definitely helped during the pandemic. I think everybody now has a much better appreciation for the human contact. Now, look, it's not the best through a TV, compared to in-person stuff, but man, does it help a lot, right? In enabling that kind of technology. So is that where you kind of the bend that you're going down here, Kian, is the sense of trying to enable this, right? This connection through that device, a large screen TV that is enabling this contact for family members and caregivers to connect, right?
You're exactly right. The collection of services and benefits and offerings, when you put them all together, it's really an ecosystem. So you think about concept of social engagement. So that's where the friends and family come in. Or neighbors, you might have others in a community, whether it's a virtual community like a home care environment or a CCRC at home, or it could be a physical community where you have walls in a senior living community, independent living, assisted living, et cetera. Or you might have clinical care. So our platform is HIPAA compliant, FDA class 1, so you can have a doctor come in, you can have a nurse come in. Today we have 24/7 access to doctors, 24/7 access to dentists, 24/7 access to mental health. We're adding other things like physical therapy, veterinarian support. So you have a pet. You already have a challenge, maybe whether it's the weather or whether you're rural or whether you don't drive anymore to get to the vet. And, the cat probably doesn't want to go, or the dog may not have a fun time at the vet, or the cage may be too heavy. So what if the vet can come to you right on your TV? Or just doing exercises. So there's a physical aspect. A lot of times, if you move your body, if you just simply do physical movement for 5 minutes a day, that could be the biggest impact on your health. When you think about it, you and us and all of us, we walk, we go to work, we come back, we go shopping. But if you're in your home and somebody's delivering food maybe for you, maybe just increasing your heart rate within 5 minutes, moving, flexing things. So again, doing that in front of this big screen is a big deal. And then I'll mention from your VAR standpoint, it's not just about the person that we're just talking about, because there's an organization, oftentimes a business, sometimes not a business. It could be a not-for-profit, faith-based organization. And they have operational challenges. They have staffing challenges. They have efficiency challenges. So what if we also address those with the same platform where you can do things like the community calendars, all the activities that you set up for that person show up on the TV. I can search on those, and I can get reminded on them once I pick the ones I want to go to. And if the TV is off or I don't see the reminder, I get a phone call. What if surveys can be delivered to me this way? So somebody doesn't have to come in with a clipboard and sit by my bed and ask me questions. What if the menus are there? And menus and food are a big item if I'm going to be basically dining in the same place for potentially the rest of my life. So every day I want to look at the menu. I want to get excited about the food. What if that can be delivered right in front of me instead of me having to go somewhere else to see it, which might not even be available as a convenient way? What if I can do work orders right there? So I don't have to necessarily wait for someone to come and take that work order from me if the light's out or there's an appliance that's broken. And you add all these efficiency components to the operation, with especially this, I don't know how long people might watch this podcast down the road. Hopefully it's going to not make sense to talk about the Great Resignation. But right now we're going through the Great Resignation. Hopefully it's an old term very soon. But there's staffing challenges in senior living communities. And so already you had efficiency challenges and benefits for solutions like ours, but now you end up having less people to do more. And so in addition to the social engagement, the clinical engagement, all the other benefits, now you have operational benefits, efficiency with staff, efficiency and effectiveness with staff. So I'll pause there. And then you have the health component too, like tying in with thresholds and alerts around maybe chronic condition management. If I want to monitor mom, let's say in an independent living community from the outside, the community doesn't have the staff to do it. They don't have the mandate. They are not allowed to provide clinical support. But the platform allows the daughter to better take care of mom from a distance. So that's another big component.
Yeah, let's get into that a little bit, Kian. That health monitoring. I mean, we talked about it. We talked about it a lot in the executive summit that we just had as well recently. That is a growing market, right? There's definitely a trend in healthcare to enable the monitoring, just healthcare being delivered at home in place in order to, for efficiencies, yes, but also to mitigate some of the issues around transporting people back and forth. And the ability to do that. So it sounds like you are not only agreeing to that trend, but also developing technologies to enable that. Correct?
You're absolutely right. And there's a huge nuance there that I want to share with the audience. There's a difference between the consumerization of healthcare and the medicalization of the consumer. Those are two very different things that a lot of times people conflate, but they shouldn't. So your VARs, in my opinion, could play a key role in the consumerization of healthcare trend, which is where things are going. The medicalization of the consumer is very different in the sense that that's the medical establishment extending certain services and certain costs and certain benefits into the home. And those are still better than obviously in the institution, but they're still extremely expensive. And they're all about billable codes. and CMS, codes and so forth. In our view, yeah, in our view, the consumerization of healthcare has to do with things like we hear population health, Medicare Advantage, value-based payments, hospital readmission penalties, ACOs, PACE programs, huge. So you end up having healthcare sort of come to the consumer and benefit from technology like Independa, where we can actually give visibility, to your point, Dean, around how do I catch little things before they become big problems without having a nurse necessarily there or without even having a nurse call every day? How do I automatically get passive information that tells me of the 5,000 people I'm taking care of, these are the 50 I need to reach out to today? And it could be for various reasons. It could be because one of the 50, it's 2 p.m. and they haven't gotten out of bed yet. And that normally doesn't happen. Maybe they're not feeling well. Or maybe another one of the 50, maybe they got out of bed 10 times last night. Or another one, maybe went to the bathroom and didn't come out for 2 hours. And another one, they should have gotten on the scale every day and it's now 3 days they haven't gotten on the scale. So the person doesn't have to learn anything new, but the passive, really health and wellness aspect allows you to catch those little things before they become big problems.
I like it. Well, I want to get a little bit more into, the VAR side of this and kind of how they can go out and position themselves with these facilities. But first, there's a couple stats I wanted to toss out here because I think this kind of leads into this conversation. I think there's this attitude, and we've hinted at it ourselves, that older people don't want technology or they're not comfortable with technology. And yet, you guys did a great survey at Independa about telehealth during the pandemic and expectations of it and what people thought of it. And I found some really good statistics out of that. So when asked what features of telehealth were most comforting, 69.5% prefer the comfort and convenience of telehealth. Nearly 2/3, 62.8%, shared they were thankful to save travel time. And over half, 55%, preferred telehealth in order to avoid contracting infectious diseases like COVID-19. So even if necessarily maybe they weren't super comfortable with the technology,
yeah, that's right.
Once it was given to them,
Yes.
once it was provided, once the option was there and they understood how to use it and started using it, they quickly it seems like more than half of people quickly recognize this is valuable and useful for me. So I think that kind of leads us into like the pitch, and being able to have a good conversation with your end customers about why they should incorporate technology, especially if they have any kind of attitude of like, well, these folks aren't
that
really
inertia, right?
Yeah, they don't really need this yet. They're
Yeah.
not interested in this kind of stuff. They have trouble with smartphones and whatnot. so help us out there, Kian. Tell us a little bit about the pitch. If it were you and you were a reseller going into senior care, long-term care, any kind of assisted living facility where you're trying to help them out and sell some technology, what would you be asking? What would you be telling them? What's the pitch? How can you help equate investing into these tools to help their business become more efficient and more profitable? Because at the end, that's a great way to sell. That's what they're going to care about more than you just trying to sell something.
Yeah, let me answer that two ways. One is a quick, easy, simple way, which is get us involved. If it's your first or second or third time, we're happy to help. We're happy to do that with you so you're comfortable that you really knock the ball out of the park when you're talking to the right people. But in general, what we would do is everyone has staffing challenges. Everyone has operational challenges. So there's two components. One is the resident engagement benefit, the resident quality of life benefit, which is very real, very important. The other one is really the operational benefit. And, how do I do more with less? And you have to really hit both of those head on. And the platform that can give you both in a simple, easy way is the winning platform. So on the resident side, we talked about social engagement. We talked about being able to see activities, quality of life. You can receive pictures, you can receive messages. But on the operational side, let me give an example of a short-term rehab, for instance, where the person might be there 29 days recovering from, let's say, hip surgery or something. And they wake up in the morning, they see the menu. They get to decide what they like from that menu. They also get a message from a physical therapist that says, I can see you 30 minutes earlier today. Is that okay? And the physical therapist is running around all day, but they have a mobile app and they can just send that message. They can even speak into it and send that message out. So now there's no phone necessarily, but the son from Italy is dialing in and doing a video chat with the person. And the son actually writes a letter to, and this is all anecdotal, these are actual things that happen, writes a letter to the organization, say, I got to know my mom better while she recovered in your community, in your facility, than when she was at home. Now I get to video chat with her. We get to talk every day versus on the phone. So that's one. So if you can sort of show all the different benefits that come to that organization. Now, if you're in independent living, that could be different because there may not be a physical therapist calling in to change a schedule. But we talked about earlier, you can have a platform that allows that independent living group to empower friends and family of that individual to take care of their chronic conditions from a distance, much better. So now everyone wants them to stay there longer, safer, and more comfortably. So the daughter can call in and say, Mom, you got to step on that scale. I know you haven't stepped on the scale because I didn't get the digital readout. Or if it's an analog scale, they say, hey, Mom, just step on the scale. Tell me how much you weigh. And then we get to keep trends of those. And if something is alerted or a threshold goes off, the daughter can be notified. It doesn't have to be the IL staff. So that's why it's really important for the VAR to understand the components of the platform, and different parts apply to different parts of the continuum of care. And we're happy to help them with that.
Yeah, and that's the opportunity there, right? I mean, we've got a lot of solution integrators, resellers that play in the healthcare space. Maybe they're just more comfortable in dealing with the hardware, not getting into some of these other opportunities. But when you think about what Independa does and some of these type of platforms, and thank you for that. Maybe we can drill in a little bit more about how it's a platform rather than just a standalone solution. This is kind of where things are moving, right?
Right,
And the ability to weave in these multiple areas, whether it's on the resident side or operational side, the arguments that you can make on either one are good. And from a reseller standpoint, you really got to kind of start understanding some of those and understanding how a solution like Independa fits in,
Right.
To help enable that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, then I think we've beat around the bush enough about what your platform kind of does and the hinting at it enough. So let's give them a little bit of the dive in here. Help give us a nice overview of what Independa's remote management platform, as Dean put it, a platform, not just a one-off kind of thing.
Right.
Explain a little bit more about how that works and how you go to market with facilities like this.
Sure. And that's a great point. Everyone tends to use the word platform loosely, but really there's a couple of litmus tests around the platform. One is, how easy is it to connect to other services and other devices in our case? So we integrate with multiple different health devices, with IoT devices. And if you don't need those, then no problem. The platform still does the social engagement. If you don't have a community calendar program in your own organization, use ours, use our menuing. But if you do, then we actually integrate with those, and you don't have to double enter anything. It just shows up. So the fact that we can bring things together as an engagement platform, the way I would use it as an analogy is, we're comfortable with what an EMR is, what an EHR is, what a ERP system is, what a CRM system is. Those are all platforms of different components tied together under one overarching benefit. No one has put together an engagement platform. So we've put together an engagement platform. There's services that get engaged, there's benefits, there's deliverables, there's devices, and it's all about, how do I reach this person, whether it's down the hall or down the street or out in the country somewhere, in a more efficient, more effective way for myself and them, to help them stay there longer, either delaying or eliminating the next stage or episode or entire stage of care. So that's it at a high level. If I were to just print out, and this doesn't have to be relevant to all of ours, but maybe some of the more technical ones, if we were to print our web services summary document, it's 227 pages long. So that's why we're a platform. And it really ties into the overall ecosystem of the customer.
And I like that through the partnerships you're also developing, correct? Kian, maybe you could talk a little bit. I mean, you already touched on it a little bit, but your ability to tap into a physician's network, for example, right? Through Media Orbis, I believe it is, or for dental, or even veteran care, or veterinarian care, it sounds like, right? But really kind of bringing more of those engagement assets to bear on what the end user would want to have in the platform, correct?
Exactly. That's a great point. So as a platform, you mentioned MediOrbis, they provide a 24/7 doctor as well as 24/7 mental health consultations. We have Dentulu, a leader in 24 and dentist connections over telehealth, so 24/7 through them. Like you mentioned, we're looking to add veterinarian support, physical therapy. We also have, for the first time ever, WebMD medical grade content coming available through Independa to the consumer. So the consumer could be in a community or they could be in their home. But imagine the power of being able to actually get medical grade, always refreshed, top of the line content around any issue you might have a concern about. So you come home from a hospital or a doctor visit, no internet search is going to get you this content. And now it's available to you. Or doing exercise videos in front of this big screen, or getting faith-based videos from Coro Health. The exercise videos are from Spiral 100. Or getting music therapy that's clinically shown to help you with your memory for dementia patients. So it's that ecosystem and the platform concept of bringing the best of breed in a curated way to the individual.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And there's more, like a pharmacy discount. You get pharmacy discount. You get. I'm missing a couple, and we're always building. We're looking to build transportation, food delivery, e-commerce, some other things.
Yeah. And for those organizations, and there's a ton of, I don't know the exact statistics around senior care and how many long-term, how many facilities are out there.
More and more every day. I can tell
More
you
and
that,
more
yeah.
every day. A lot of them are independent, don't have these kind of resources. But again, if you're a reseller that's selling into healthcare already, you kind of maybe already know some of these folks. You've installed some of their barcoding technology or something like that. Here's yet another angle that you can bring to the table through this partnership with Independa, that you can offer up the platform and help them out. Yeah.
Yeah, I will say Independence platform, I fell in love with it when I kind of was reading over everything. And it was one of those things I was like, I hadn't really thought about this. And yet it feels like a no-brainer. And you know, and I think what stood out to me is, again, I was thinking about my situation with my mom.
Yeah.
And I remember a couple years back, I gave her a flip phone. I knew she wasn't going to be able to handle smartphones. I was like, hey, I'm going to give you a little cellular flip phone. I will prepay for the wireless minutes. I'll have it all set up and ready for you. This is the cheapest, simplest old kind of phone that you could possibly
But now
have.
I can connect anytime.
Yeah,
anywhere.
so that we
Right.
can call each other. If you get lost, you can call me. Or like she struggled a little bit for a while getting to our new house after we moved. So I was like, hey, you can call me when you get to Kroger. I can come meet you, or you can call me if you get lost on the way, that kind of stuff.
Right.
She couldn't handle it. Like it just, she never could grasp the usage of that phone, and just eventually just gave up and threw it away at some point. And I remember thinking like, wow, that's like, I don't know how much more basic I can get. But then I was reading over about Independence platform, and I'm like, wait a minute, like the one thing that she's always figured out how to do, no matter what level of technology it's moved up, is the television.
Yeah,
She's
right.
not just streaming yet, because we haven't gotten into the whole Wi-Fi thing.
Yeah.
But she figured out DVR with no issue whatsoever with her cable.
Right.
She's the first person that will get a new remote for her cable box and sort it out. Like she makes sure that she can see her television, that she can watch her shows. And to your point earlier, that's the one thing that most older people, if they're not doing anything else, they're probably watching television. And that was the thing where I was like, man, like it's entirely possible that this kind of a platform for her would be the perfect thing, because she's already very familiar with television, and it would just be a little more intuitive for her to make her way around in this, because it's sort of something she already knows and understands. So from that level alone, I think it's a great way to go out and explain it to, again, you know, if you have customers that are a little reticent about it and you're like, hey, how many of your residents do you typically find watching TV when you go to their room? How many of them gather together and watch TV together?
And they're aware of this trend,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I mean,
They should
know.
be. I would hope so. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think anybody's walking in the door with a platform quite like this.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and to enable some of these certain functionalities, it's really a one-up that you would have, right, Kian?
Yeah, you're exactly right. Those are great stories, and I have to give a shout out to LG. So LG initially commercial TVs had us embedded inside them. Now, more recently, the consumer TVs have us embedded inside them in a powerful way that nobody else on the planet has, and no other TV manufacturer. The only other time I know of that they've done something like this is with Apple AirPlay. So you don't need to be on a channel. You don't even have Independa running, and you can still have a doctor come in, or you can have a medication reminder, or you can have, you know, Uncle Joe's visit pop up so you get reminded. You can basically get notifications no matter what channel, what input. You can be running Roku, you could be, you know, anything. So that is really powerful, and it's all about simplicity. Two things we do better than anyone else, in our opinion, is engagement, remote and overall engagement. But how we do it is equally important, the simplicity of how we do it. So credit to LG for that. If you don't have an LG TV, then you add this in your community. So communities may not have to go out and buy LG TVs right off the bat. Although if I'm a VAR and I'm involved in the sale and the equipment of a TV during of a community during the planning phase, for instance, it's a no-brainer. Make it LG TVs. There's no further installation. Everything's built in. So that's part of the VAR. If you're in early enough in the cycle that maybe you're doing broadband support, maybe you're doing wiring support, maybe you're doing, you know, any kind of electrical work, you say, hey, by the way, make sure you have LG TVs. We'll be talking about that to you later when everything's built. So you know, make the operations easier. And it's a selling tool. When you go, somebody's deciding between your community and somebody else, the VAR should mention, hey, if you tell people after your dining experience and after you play bingo and after you spend your day with us, you come back to your room and you shut the door, you may be alone, even your first night, but you're never going to be lonely. Your daughter can wish you good night right on the TV. You don't have to learn anything new. To your point, John, about your mom, you don't have to learn how to use a tablet, buy a tablet, etc.
Yeah,
Love it.
real nice. And by the way, you can get those LG displays right here at BlueStar. But in all
That's
seriousness, that's a coup. So congratulations for getting that kind of integration. But that's the kind of platform, right? That you can walk in the door and have those conversations. We do. We have a lot of digital signage folks out there that are probably getting into these conversations. Maybe it's a refresh of screens that is happening in some kind of senior care facility. Keep that in mind, because now when you're walking in the door, you have yet another thing that you can offer, this platform, this robust platform that you can that can enable engagement. Pretty powerful.
And kudos to LG
Dean,
for having the. Go ahead.
Yeah, credit to them. And Dean, that's a great point about digital signage. I don't know if I mentioned that as part of the collection of services that we have, including broadcast message and so forth. But if you're a digital signage company in VAR, you go in, again, make it LG, because not only can you get digital signage, they're already leaders in that market anyway. We actually have digital signage as part of our platform as well. And if you include Independa as digital signage, then suddenly somebody has all these other services they can add through you. So you can go in with digital signage, but you suddenly say, by the way, I have all these other things that you may not have thought about outside of your common area, 10 TVs in every room.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
There you go.
Well, there's a lesson there about getting ahead of a curve.
Right.
Paying attention to trends and getting on board before everybody else is. And then you can get, singled out on a podcast,
Or how do you increase your tech stack? It's through things like this.
Exactly.
This
Very
is how
much
you
so.
do it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, hey, before we wrap up with our value to the VAR, I want to, first of all, as always, thank our TEConnect sponsors. We appreciate your support of the show. We could not do this without you. Hey, if you like what you hear here and you want to give us a little bit of feedback, okay, a few ways you can do that. One, like and subscribe on YouTube.
Yep.
We're always happy to hear from you. Leave us a comment on this video. Tell us what
Absolutely.
you thought of this particular episode. If you listen on any of the various audio-only podcast platforms, which I think just more were just added that I can connect us to today, so I'm going to keep expanding that network out.
Yeah.
And, leave us a review. If there's any option, especially on Apple Podcasts, leave us a 5-star rating and review. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you think of the show.
That's how people find us.
Exactly. It helps people find us. And for that matter, share the show. If you like it and you've got another colleague in the same space in the VAR channel somewhere, share the podcast with them. Share a couple of your favorite episodes.
Send it to your parent.
Send it to your parent.
Who might be looking for some of that, right?
There
so
you
that
go.
they can demand that at their senior
Yeah, that
care,
wouldn't really
right?
work for me. It'll be like, okay, Mom, first of all, we need internet, we need a smartphone, we need a podcast app, you're going to need some headphones. Like, no, I wouldn't be able to do that. But yes, please share it. And hey, of course, as always, if you want to connect with us, want to tell us what you like about the show, give us some suggestions. There's always a link in the show notes for topic submissions. And just for submitting an idea for the show, we will send you a TEConnect podcast t-shirt just for letting us know what you want to hear about. And as always, you can find us on Twitter at TEConnectPod. You can also email us, TEConnect@BlueStarInc.com. All right, let's wrap things up here, as always. First of all, with the value to the VAR. This is where we like to give a little takeaway to our VAR audience. And I feel like we've kind of explained a lot of this already about what you should be thinking about and doing in order to go out and sell this kind of technology. But Kian, let's maybe kind of wrap it up and give a quick takeaway about what VARs should be looking for, what should they be asking about, what they should be doing with their customers in this particular part of healthcare, and how does Independa going to go in and help them out?
Sure. So we have built a platform around what we call the care recipient. And that person has different names in different parts of the industry: participant, member, client, resident, patient. And so if you're a VAR that your customers take care of someone, whether it's down, like I said, down the hall or down the street or, in a neighborhood, in a building or not, then we can provide some compelling value add for them and compelling ROI on the operational side, staffing, services to the person, as well as the quality of life of the person. So that's at a high level. We're a subscription-based organization, so that's how we make our money, is based on subscriptions, and we share that annuity with the VARs. So we're very much a channel-centric, channel-savvy company. So if a VAR comes, you have a place with us, and our model supports you financially. So it's a gift that keeps giving as a subscription. So you might have very low margins maybe on a sale of a piece of hardware, But with us, you can have a 5-year deal with that company, and it's your deal and it's your customer that we get to support. So those are two quick differentiators of how we would work with the VAR. The markets are senior living, that's independent living, assisted living, any kind of PACE programs. If you're involved with the state-run, health, Medicare, Medi-Cal type service, we would help there. What's called special need programs. I mentioned home care, home health. All of these are organizations that take care of folks and would benefit from the platform.
Very nice.
Perfect.
I mean, right? And recurring revenue. Who
Exactly.
doesn't like getting a check in the mail? If you can just open the door to Independa in these areas, you utilize them, obviously, up front, as we talked about here.
Yep.
But what a great way to seriously add stickiness to the customer base and a really, truly robust platform that you're walking in the door with. A solid solution.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. No notes. I got nothing to add to that.
There
That's
you go.
fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, well, hey, let's wrap up as always with our favorite segment, What's Tech Connecting with You?
Yep.
This is where we're going to talk about something from the world of science, technology, innovation, business,
Yes.
something that's got our attention, something we're reading about, maybe using, just something that's caught our eye. So, Kian, I'll let you start. What's Tech Connecting with you right now?
Well, I'm going to share with you, this is very topical. Today I read the Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 have left the heliosphere, which apparently is basically where the sun has some influence of some sort of gases billions of miles away. And they're on their way to like never ever land in space and time. And I was thinking, 1977, I put that on my, it was a Facebook thing, and a gentleman wrote back that his dad worked on the Voyager.
Wow.
And for NASA. So that was like, I got goosebumps. And the point I made was long after we're gone, and possibly long after this Earth is gone, these two are still going to be out there going out. So kudos to NASA and kudos to mankind for like having these two, I guess, tech platforms in a way. Still kicking strong.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I've always found those fascinating.
Yeah, I was reading an article on that as well. I think I have this right. Talk about our need for instant communication. I was reading that in order to communicate with those, it takes 20 hours and like 43 minutes for a signal to get there, and then the equal to come back.
And that's
So
only going to get longer.
it's a and it's a 2-day process to. I mean, can you imagine just how many of these people just sitting around waiting for the message to come back on this?
We live in a world where people freak out when they see the 3 dots show up, someone's responding, and then they stop and don't respond for another 20 minutes. Like, people are like, what are you going to say? What are you doing?
I mean, this is worse than like when the internet first started and you're doing the handshake, and you're waiting.
That's totally
like,
what should happen. When they send a message, there should just be like
man.
dots coming back from Voyager, and they just have to sit there and watch that for 20 hours.
But in all seriousness, kudos to those engineers. Those things have been blasted, flying through space, for 45 years. Unbelievable. I think there was another issue, right? The something on the communication side, the antenna wasn't.
I saw like
or something like
a
that.
random blurb come across like my headlines or whatever. It said scientists have had a weird message from
That's
Voyager 1 or something. I'm like, well, I got to read that later.
Right?
So.
Well, that's what it's all
You
about.
know what the thing that it's still going to go on. It doesn't matter. It could stop. It could whatever. It's just going to keep going. That's amazing.
It is amazing.
Someday, some alien race is going to find that they're going to break out that gold record on there.
Yeah.
And they're going to like have some like entire like breakdown of our society and be like, well, we know these people went extinct 3 billion years ago, but we've got this information about them.
God,
So
I hope it's something like that and not like some alien spaceship flying through whatever, and they hit it like a little road, like a road rock, and it's like us going down the highway. Ding, you hear something hit your car, ding, and it's like, oh, what was that? Oh, I don't know. Keep
that was
driving.
the entirety of human history. No biggie.
So I hope it's not that. I hope they do pause and say, "Hey, wait a minute."
We're
what was
also
that?
not like the premise of Star Trek: The Motion Picture, where some alien species found it and like absorbed it, and then came flying to Earth, and we're just like, we're going to destroy you because we don't know better about you right now. And although I always thought that was a very cool Voyager was what it called itself, because the OYA was like scraped off on the satellite. Yeah,
I
Right.
think that was the one with the whales. Also, wasn't that the one?
No,
with the
that was
whales?
Star
Or
Trek 4 actually, but it was a similar kind of premise. It was just a weird probe that got sent here to talk to whales because they couldn't talk to us. Yep.
Yeah. Good stuff.
That was our nerd moment there. All right, Dean, what's tech connecting with you right now?
Do you have a hard time keeping your burritos wrapped?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay,
yeah,
so
I can-
Johns Hopkins students at Johns Hopkins have come up and designed the first edible tape that can be used on food. Instead of re-engineering the napkin or something like that, these folks, this team of chemical and biomolecular engineers students, have developed a new product that they call Tasty Tape. And that
I remember
is
bubble tape. I don't think that
there
was
you
that
go.
would
The
have been
product
useful.
is delivered. It comes in 2-inch cut strips, and if you see the picture online, you use a burrito with this piece of tape on it. Basically, it looks like a piece of tape. You apply a little bit of water, and I guess that's what makes it sticky. When I first read it, I'm like, no, I don't want tape on it because it's sticky and anything like that. But they claim that goes away and stuff like that, and so you can use it to kind of keep the burrito nice and nice. But of course, there's other uses for it too. You got a cake that's falling apart. Maybe you use this tape, pull it back together. Those kind other culinary fails as
Presentation can get a little better.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, would you be eating something if it had an edible tape on it? I don't know, Kian. Are you eating Tasty Tape?
I'm thinking that you just combine that with Beyond Meat and you just eat the tape and be done with it.
There you go.
just make tape.
There you go. I think of Johns Hopkins. I think of Johns Hopkins as being out there, like, coming up with, the next cutting edge medical technology and
like
trying to cure cancer.
Yes.
And now they're making edible tape.
Hey,
we were working on that cancer thing, but then somebody's burrito fell apart. We decided, nope, stop. We got to work on this.
Biomolecular team over here got really bored with that, and they were pissed at their burritos, so they came up with a solution. I don't know.
I guess so. All right.
Well, anyway, what's tech connecting with you, John?
So we've been talking a little bit about social isolation and mental health and all that stuff. Well, let's be honest. One of the biggest contributors to social problems and mental health can be social media.
Yes.
In particular, platforms like Instagram.
Yes.
And any other like photo type platforms where everybody's out there
One-upping.
showing beautiful, wonderful pictures of themselves, and their lives.
Photoshopped, filtered.
Never mind that they took 600 photos in order to find that one perfect one and ran it through 6 million filters to make it look great. So there's a new app, which honestly, the sad thing is this is not the first time someone's tried this, but there's a new app called Be Real that is catching on apparently with college students right now.
Okay.
The premise of this is that only once a day, in a 2-minute window at a random time of day, it basically pings you, the app pings you and says, hey, take a photo of yourself. Take a selfie and a front camera photo. So, of you and what's in front of you right now and post it online for your friends.
Okay.
And the idea being like, don't spend the time to make yourself look perfect.
Got to happen now.
Don't pose
randomly.
and stage everything. Right.
Yeah,
Don't make it look like your life is more glamorous than it actually is. Just be real and be who you are at the moment. And I like that concept in theory, but apparently I'm reading this article, and as always, I always post these links in our show notes. I'm reading this article from Vox, and they're talking about how there's been previous apps that have tried to do these anti-Instagram apps that try to do the same thing. They all inevitably fail because in the end, people still just want to engage with the stuff where they think everybody has perfect lives, even though deep down we should all know we don't, but we still feel bad because ours aren't as perfect.
We're shallow is what you're saying. Yeah, as a society. Yeah.
So basically, it was just kind of it's interesting article kind of suggesting that like, hey, this all sounds great, but we still are too far down the rabbit hole to really get away from the problems that these types of apps cause. And that even something like this, it may just encourage people to just be on 24/7.
I was just about to go there.
I have to be ready
I
at all
can see somebody
times.
just sitting there the whole time, all gussied up, ready to go, or whatever.
Now, granted,
it is.
technically, by the way this app is defined in the way people expect it to be, I guess if you saw someone doing that, you would probably call them out as a poser or something. Be like, stop it, you're not being real right now or whatever.
Right.
But again, like it's apparently right now is the second most downloaded successful app, most downloaded app on the App Store after TikTok. So it's going through a thing right now.
Okay.
It's the app of the moment that's not TikTok right now.
All right.
But yeah, I recommend reading the article because they talk about some of the previous attempts to do stuff like this, and again how things can kind of go wrong, and whether this still reflects oddly on our need for social gratification and the desire to share so much about ourselves and even in our real
Once
moments.
again, though, an app that's not made for middle-aged guys. Because
what
do you want me to be real about?
If it just pinged right now, I'm like, it's me podcast. That'd probably be the most interesting.
That would
thing you
be
saw me do
interesting,
today.
right? Yeah, that would be interesting.
The rest of it's just me just sitting in front of a computer, probably with like a chip in my mouth or something.
Yeah, right.
Like
doing work.
Here's my same view that I've had for the last 3 hours. Yeah.
Oh man.
So that's what's TEConnect with me right now,
right.
and technology that I probably won't get into.
There we go.
So
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Kian Saneii from Independa, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate having you on the
Thanks, Kian.
show.
It's my pleasure, John and Dean. That was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for having me.
Definitely. Hey, until next time, folks. First of all, if you know someone in, senior living or assisted care, maybe make some recommendations to their facilitators to go out and look into this technology.
Yes,
tell them you want to stay
absolutely.
connected.
Yeah.
And maybe download the Be Real app and take some candid photos of yourself, or just do it anyway.
Fair enough.
Post it to Instagram,
Right?
because that's a thing now too.
That is a thing.
Like everyone's like, this is my authentic self. And as always, folks, please stay connected. The TEConnect podcast is brought to you by ELO. Enhanced patient care everywhere it matters. ELO offers touchscreen product solutions for a variety of healthcare applications, ranging from nurse stations and patient education to patient check-in and pharmacy checkout. I think we've talked a little bit about the importance of technology in the patient care realm
Absolutely.
today.
And touch is everywhere in that realm, right? So, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We want them to be able to touch things.
Absolutely.
We're touching again. We decided that a couple episodes back. We're touching
And if
things
you're going to
again.
touch, you have to touch on a professional monitor like Elo.
That's right. Man, you wrote that ad better than I could have. Wow. Streamline healthcare administration and enhance the patient experience with ELO's versatile solutions. Look, like always, this grouchy old misanthrope here is always looking for opportunities to do self-service.
Yeah, good point. Yes.
So give me all the interactive screens you can, other than the doctor themselves.
Oh, you don't want that to be a self-touch screen? No.
No, not so much. Yeah, that would be a little weird. Like just like a bot comes rolling in with a screen. I mean, I understand telehealth, but like if I'm going to the doctor, I kind of want the real person to show up.
But anything else around there?
Yeah, I don't trust some mechanical thing to put
Not
a
yet.
thing in my mouth or something.
Say off.
Yeah, exactly. ELO's healthcare solutions include the M50 mobile Android computer, the O3 series medical grade monitors, large format signage, all-in-one touch computers, and much more. To learn more, visit ELO's microsite on BlueStarInc.com or contact your BlueStar account manager. TEConnect podcast is also brought to you by Zebra. Building on the highly successful, that's a lot to say there, highly successful.
You're building up the anticipation here.
Zebra's words, not mine, but I'm assuming they're correct here.
Yes.
The highly successful TC52HC, the TC52XHC series, offers two models that help caregivers complete tasks faster and more accurately to improve the quality of care and the patient experience. Are you catching a theme here?
That is right, by the way. And that they have, yes.
Okay. The TC52XHC and the TC52AXHC with Wi-Fi 6. Featuring Zebra technology, software, and services, these enterprise devices offer the full suite of mobility DNA solutions that deliver a performance edge and better patient engagement or better patient care for clinicians. Built with medical-grade plastics and designed to thrive in healthcare environments, that makes sense.
Absolutely.
The TC52X mobile computers can perform all tasks, including accessing electronic health records, clinical collaboration, secure texting messaging, and data capture through one device without compromising on patient privacy or data security.
Did you say Wi-Fi 6, by the way? That's how that all happens.
That's one more than Wi-Fi 5.
You got that right.
Yeah. Designed with healthcare grade materials, the TC52X allow continuous cleaning and disinfecting throughout multiple shifts every day, with over 30 cleaners that are used in hospitals today to protect against healthcare associated infections, or HAIs for short.
Ooh.
I don't want to get one of those.
No, we don't want those.
I hear those are
Those are bad.
Yeah, those are bad. To learn more, check out the link in the show notes or contact your BlueStar Zebra representative.